Okay, so whenever you need to add a new build, right, a build pipeline that's in Jenkins, so that you can go in here and pick your service of your choosing, hello world, and then click build now, right, which will actually give you a final Docker image. To do that, you need to add a config element to this build config file, which exists in pretty much all your repos. So in case you're building a new repo itself, or you have a private repo or some sort of scenario, then you would create the same folder structure, as in your repo name will be here. In that, there's a build folder, and then there's a build config file. And the build config file will have a list of configs. It's an array of configs. Each config will represent one such build here. So you can map them, you can compare them with your build config files to your Jenkins. They'll all be in sync. So basically, your core services slash egov access control would be here in core services slash egov access control. That's where your job will get created. So the legacy way of how people used to do is, there would be some guy here who would actually go here and click it and then probably copy from template, something like that, right? So this would be some guy, ops guy who would do this, and then you would put in the name, then bunch of configurations, and so eventually you would get a build pipeline like this, right? Which means there's a lot of dependency on somebody to do this for you, and you as a developer are not free to do what you want, or you cannot be agile. You also have to see, okay, till he does it, I cannot do anything, right? In this case, rather, whoever it is needs to approve your PR, right? It could be the repo owner or somebody from your team who's been represented as the code owner or such. So he can approve your PR. Once that is done, the next step for you would be to run the job builder itself. So the job builder is what will actually generate the jobs from the build configs. What the job builder will do is, there's a preset configured number of repos here. So you can show that as well. Okay, so you have core services, you have Rainmaker customization, you have front end, eGov Infra, business services, municipal services. These are all Git repos, right? You must have seen them as well. So all these repos have been configured so that what it does is, it's going to go to each one of these repos, clone those repos, get the build config of each one of the repos, parse to that file, and based on whatever is here, it would then create the jobs for all of them, right? So whenever you say these things, right, Rainmaker customization, front end, so you could also see those folders here: core, business, front end, municipal services. So this would just create all the whatever is there in the build config. You will have Jenkins jobs for them. Okay, is that better now? So feel free to ask questions. However, if you think it might be simple ones or what, just ask them now. Yeah, yeah, go ahead. So I want to do all these things. I mean, I want to start learning developers point of view. Can I do it all my learning in the sense what how this is happening, or you as a developer want to push your app somewhere, right? That's part. Right. Yes, this is entirely yours. You don't require anybody else's intervention. So you don't require an intervention from anybody. If you want to push an app, you are free to do, and it's fully automated as of now. So I'm not sure if we'll have time. Maybe if we do, I could probably show you a demo of how everything would work from the start. Okay, but then we will see. Uh, so yeah, so this is the build part of it. So even the build has an array here. In case there are many scenarios when we run our DB migrations using Flyway, right? I think you must have been told about that as well, right? So that also is a Docker container. So basically, a Docker image needs to be built for the Flyway as well. So this is an array in which you can say, okay, for the same thing, I need another one, right? So this is, as part of this build, I need two Docker images, not just one. Right. So normally what we do is, when you build here, you go here. When I build billing service, you would get one image billing service, whatever tag, right? Docker tag, right? Show you the output of that. So this would be your tag that comes out. This is the image that's built. Now for billing service to run, it's not just okay. So there are two of them, right? You can see here. So this one has a DB migration as well. Okay, so this is the first image that's pushed because here. Okay, so you have billing service here. You're saying that build me a Docker image called billing service here. The image name is billing service, and that's your first one. So that's the first one that's getting pushed here. Okay, but you also have another one which says I need another image as well called billing service DB. Build that as well by, and for that the working directory is this. Okay, so it would just cd into that and then do a Docker build. So the output of that would be then. So this is the first one that's run. Now you have another build that's running, and that also pushes what you asked for. But this one, if you can notice here, the image name is -db. The tag is the same, but the image name is -db, which is what you're asking for here. Okay. So, and when we go to the deployment, you can also see that these images will then get deployed together. So the DB container usually is an init container. It would just spawn and then run all the DB DDLs per se, and then you would actually deploy your server system. Okay, and that I think maybe we can do a demo. Let's do it. So, what's the majority, like what's the language that you guys usually use? Java. So you use Spring. Okay, let's do Spring. So, so this can be anything. I'm just giving something. Feel free to give whatever. Okay, so uh, probably you would have used this. I'm not sure initializer. So this would just generate a bootstrap thing that you can just run. Right? So it's called nothing fancy. It's just a hello world app. So, I think this is the one. Okay, so you have the app itself. In the meantime, so we have app started. Right? So this is good enough for us. We have the actuator, so you can count the actuator. We have an endpoint on it. Okay? Uh, so So I've just added a context path so that now we don't have to do any URL rewriting before that. Before it was called server.contextpath, and now in Spring Boot they've changed it to server dot something else. So I don't remember what exactly it is. So now I think we should be able to access this. So you're getting us. Okay, and it's up. Yes. So I'm just going to try and push this out. Okay. So these are all some unnecessary stuff, so that's why I'm just removing them. I don't think we need any. Okay, so let's add them. Comment, Okay, so we have a thing that's built here. It's called hello. It's nothing complicated. It's a pretty stable. And now we will add a config here. So you wouldn't actually be able to edit. You would need to. You would be able to, but you would be raising a PR. But then I will just edit it up. So this is what name you want to be seen on Jenkins. This is the working directory you want, and then this would be the image name. Uh, Not a very nice image name, but I think this will be good for me. And then there's a Docker file. This we can still use because it's a Java app. We will reuse the Docker file so that like I told you, the advantage of that. So if you were to write a different app yourself for let's say a Java or a Python or Golang or something, you will have or the UI code itself, right? You would have your own Docker file. And if it's on the root of the repo, you don't even have to mention this here. By default, in the work directory, there is a Docker file. It will use that. So you would commit this. Okay, so then you can go ahead and run the job builder because you have it there. So the job builder itself will now go to each of the repos like I told earlier, get all of them and create a Jenkins job for you. Okay. Sorry, that would actually not work. So you need to make the change in master. I've done it on the branch. Okay. So I'm merging this to master, the changes here. So and now we'll rerun the script again because it was not yet on master, and until it's on master, the build will not be picked up, the new thing. Once it's done, we'll rerun. So as you can see, it goes to all of the repos that are configured. It will get the build config, and then it would actually generate what all services needs to be created or added or removed and stuff like that. Right? So we'll rerun this. So at this stage, like I told you, so you would have configured n number of repos. It will check out all those repos to get the build config files. Once it has those build config files, it will start to build the Jenkins job based on that config. So that is a config to say how you need your jobs to be built. So now it's checking out all the repos. Right? So, yeah. Yes, yes. It would still do for all of them at once. Right? It will check out all of the repos at once and build for all of them. Okay, so now you can see this is the repo we've added, right? And then you could also see our commit here. It's a merge pull request, and then that's actually merging. And then that should, yeah. So if you can see here, there was one item that was added newly, and that's called utility slash hello. Right? And then there was also a Docker repository which was also created for this because that was the only new repository which was added. Okay. So if we now go to utilities and then hello, you will now have a build pipeline here. And then you will also have all kinds of features like building from different branches and stuff. So it's not like if you're building on a feature, it doesn't say that you need to always launch to master. You can still build from your feature branches as well. So here we have like there is an error which says no, it was not able to resolve one of the Spring Boot parent, right? So we were using I think 2.1.2, but this does not exist in the Google Maven repo, right? Maven Central that we use. So Google Maven Central is basically a mirror of the actual Maven, but there could be the newer ones sometimes are not really there in the repo itself. So what we can do is we'll switch to the older pump for now. So we'll go back to something like 1.5 dot. What was it? So this is the first time that I've seen a Maven error on this, but then locally fetch from the Apache Maven repo, but on the Google Maven repo because we run our builds on GCP so that once we fetch from Google's repo, the data costs are much lower for us because they lay on the same availability zone. So normally you would never get this error at all, but then yeah, because it's a demo, then it has happened, right? So you can't help it. Okay, so we would just go with 1.5. So I also know that this is server.context partner. So once that build flow is done, that's all the builds actually do. Like from now on, wherever you push your code to, you can start running from there, the same build. So there is nothing else, no job builder stuff like that you will be doing. So the job builder thing that you did and the build config file that you edited, that will be the first time that you need to create a build pipeline for, right? So once that is created, from then on, you wouldn't do any of that, right? Rather, you would just go about pushing code and then deploying them. Only once. That is the first time when you are creating the pipeline. So now you have that menu in Jenkins, right? That is the only time that you would do it. From then on, you wouldn't have to do it. Yeah, you start building it. So not, there's nothing else to do. So this is the part that there's there. So we will just commit this part. So that's because I've imported the project from the download directory, but then I'm now on the different directory. I'll just save this part. So the other thing that you would also see because of this change is now the chain that I did, right? I wouldn't be pushing every time to master. Rather, I would be developing on my feature branch or my bug fix branch and so on and so forth. So you can always push to that, and then you can build from those branches instead of building always from master. You can push to whatever branch you want, and it will come up here in this drop down, and you can build from whichever branch you want. Um, yeah. So now I pushed the form change to origin slash demo, not to origin slash master, because maybe master I will raise a pull request maybe at the end of the day, maybe at the end of the sprint. So you don't always have to push to master and then build. You can build it from any time you want. Okay, so while this is going, because we don't have a lot of time, let's also move on to the deployment part, right? So we deploy everything to Kubernetes. We run everything on Kubernetes on various clouds, sometimes Azure, GCP, AWS, OpenStack, different clouds, and we try and abstract the cloud itself. Like you should be able to deploy your app no matter which cloud it's on, right? And you should be able to get a URL which you can access. That's all you want. So that's what the various things like Kubernetes help you mask. So for that we will use. So anybody knows anything about Kubernetes here? No, right? Okay, so I'll um, skip across and see what we can do without going in depth into any of that. Right? So you can check out the ego, what is this, infraops repository, right? And then you have the charts directory, and then you can do you create whatever folder you want. So if this is the app name is hello, so I'm creating a folder called hello. Right? So this would be the directory. So normally when I want to check out the ego infraops repo, you already have Helm, you have charts. So in this charts, what's your app called? So it could be anything, but in this case, I'm calling it a hello because preferably whatever is there in your image name that you've given here, you do the same thing. So your image name, if you've given us as hello, then that should also be here. Okay. And then so some of these things are uh, not completely finished, but I will show you and then you can probably ask the question. So you can tell the name of the service and then application type. We have a couple of defaults. One is Java Spring, and then depending on more apps we onboard, we'll try and abstract the configurations even more. Now, the reason we have Java Spring is because that's the most used in our environment, right? So that when there could be a Node.js and various other things. So what it does, it gives you a set of default environment variables such as database connectivity, Kafka connectivity, and all of those things, so that you don't have to manually specify any of them. In this case, I would say not available because I don't have a database, I don't have a Kafka, anything running. It's a Hello World application. Right? So I will just skip that. Um, Health checks are basically Kubernetes will keep pinging the health endpoint to check if your app is still alive. There are times where the app is there, but then it's in a stuck mode. It's hung state. So traditionally, you would have to go there and actually fix those apps. But in this case, you would directly know that Kubernetes will do that for you every 30 seconds or 60 seconds. It will keep pinging that URL and see if the app is still responding. If the app gives a 200, then it says it's still responding, and then it's fine. If it doesn't give a 200, it does not give a response. It restarts the app. Okay. And again the service routing is based on that, so only if it is active and working, only then the actual url is being routed. So in case the service is down, the traffic will not be hitting your service. So you can run two replicas, as in two parts of that, and then if one of them is down, then the traffic will all go to the second one. Okay, because of the health checks. So because you already all have the actuator point, I will just go and say yes. DB migration, so this is for the database migration. We don't have any database, so I would just say no here. Do you want to expose it to the internet? Then yeah, I would. And then route through API gateway. Normally we would say yes, so that this would then go to the through role. I think even that you must have been given some role, right? So that gives you authentication, authorization, and all those things that come with it. This would also need you to configure the access control rules so that a certain role is allowed to access that point. As of now, for this demo, that wouldn't make sense. So I would say no, because then we'll have to go and change NDMS, add the role actions there, and then restart. So that's some process. But yeah, context path is whatever it is. So if you tell hello, so you could do eco microdev slash hello, and this would route it same to the service as well. Okay, so this is a small generator which would just generate a set of templates. Okay, so based on the values that you've given, it generated some values. So these three are constant. You don't have to worry about them. The only thing that changes is values.yaml always. Okay, so if you check the values.yaml, you can see that ingress would mean like, do you want it to be exposed to the internet? That question is set to true. What is the context that you typed here? It's printed here. What is the repository? By default, it's ego-hello, and that is what you also have here, right? And then the replicas is one, because how many pods of this or how many instances of this app do you want running? Do you want 2, 3, 4, 10, whatever it is, right? That you would specify here. And this is the health endpoint itself. Okay, by default, the port is going to be 8080. And you set that port to 8080, then your health checks are enabled and liveness probes and all of them will just follow there. Okay. And then if you need more ENVs, you could see one of our services. So this would how a proper, like a fully fledged app would run. Maybe it would have a number of variables, right? Because we are working in microservices, you would be in this 12-factor app kind of thing where you would try and externalize all the configurations. So that is why you have these environment variables. So you would pretty much try and put everything in the environment, and which can then get overridden by a per environment basis. Okay. So this is good enough for us. Now, if I were to do the power, so yeah, we'll just see. So, so this is the actual Kubernetes manifest that would be rendered. Not that you should know this, but this is what actually happens behind the scenes. Right? So this entire app, this will be generated itself, and then it has all the configurations and stuff that's required for this. Okay. So ideally, you wouldn't be running this command, but rather you would just raise a PR to Infrog saying, I have a new app called Hello, and these are the values that I've added. Can you please approve it? Once that's approved, uh, then you could go to deploy to dev. So you have this job called deploy to dev, then build with parameters and actually put the name of the image. So whatever I did here with the command line, that would be the same. You can put the image here and it will deploy, and you can put n number of images here, comma separated, and it will go ahead and deploy all of them. Okay. So for now, I will deploy from the command line itself. So it is saying it's trying to pull the Docker image that you pushed, right? and once it is there, it actually goes into the running state. I can get into the container and then check as well. Okay, so that's working now. So that's the same actuator endpoint you were hitting locally. So this is the one. So the same thing. So now you can see that it's still in a 0 to 1 status, which means it is still not exposed to the full internet itself, because the readiness and liveness check that I told is active, and then it would first check if the health endpoint is working, and only then will it route traffic into this. Okay, the health endpoint is this. Okay. So now it says that it's done. Okay, this is actually coming from the point. So that's how you would get your app from your local machine to actually running on the server. And this would have your SSL, TLS, and your various amount of rule checks, authorization, authentication. So all of them will come with you, along with it, and you don't have to do like a whole lot of things. It's just two PRs that you would need today, and that will fix all of it. Yeah. Yeah, so I also fortunately have a video, so I can share the video as well to anybody who wants to recap that. So, questions, we can take some questions. How should I have?
Is there anything similar we have done with other projects? So what was the CICD?